each rider, especially pro rider on your rosters, have their own specialty that they're good at, climber, sprinter, whatever it may be. How do you allocate high intensity interval training workouts for your riders during different phases of the year? And then is it different for depending on their specialty?
Yeah, the fascinating side about interval training or just high intensity training for professional athletes, and I'm just going to focus on like our guys just as like an example at Project Echelon because we do have a widespread where their specialty might lie in a totally different direction. I think high intensity training is going to be present across the board. Like you're going to see it amongst every single athlete that's on our team. What really probably brings it to light is that timing concept and what they're focusing on. So with our calendar, we have there are times where it's pretty crazy, where there's a lot of race intensity. So an athlete on our team needs to be pretty primed for that system. So they need to engage VO2 pretty early so that, for example, we leave for Spain. Well, actually, a lot of our guys are already there with you,
I was
but
gonna say, yeah, Sam was telling me he's
yeah,
here now.
yeah, yeah. And I would guarantee you that a lot of them are hitting high intensity work already because we have, dot one races in 2 weeks. We have a dot pro race the following week. So they need to be ready for race intensity. And then you get into, okay, what races are really going to hyper focus on VO2? What races are going to focus a little bit more on threshold? Stage race. That's the kind of the delineation. And when a coach or like I would probably say, hey, we need to focus really hard on this. So Mallorca is coming up, just to use like an example. A lot of those, it's pretty topsy turvy. You're kind of like fighting for position, but there are some sustained climbs in there. So it depends on which stages you're doing. So we have some
Yeah.
guys that are doing the stages that are going to be more punchy and do require quite a lot of that VO2 and be able to recover from that VO2, which is another side effect to it. So you would have sustained blocks where you probably are doing more of a polarized model to prep for that. On the flip side of that, you might have a race. So, like using a race here, for example, toward the Gila, a lot less VO2 dominant efforts. It's at altitude, sustained climbs. You really need to have a buffered out middle range on your power profile. So, that might be when you would do more of a pyramidal approach and have that
Mhm.
middle range really boosted and buffered. The other thing is, when you're doing a 10-day or 7-day or 5-day stage race, you need to be able to absorb that. You need to be able to recover from each day. So it's really important to have a lot more volume and stuff like that. So as far as then getting into specialty, I would say most of our guys are going to be doing high intensity training. I would say all of them are at this point, just because they'll be racing soon. It's a little bit of a different shift when you're racing in January and you're racing in October. It's different.
Yep.
So you have to really juggle those blocks into key periods of training. And that's what makes coaching these guys so fun is that it is a constant shift and you can't just keep doing the same thing because it really starts to degrade. Um,
Yep.
but if they're more of a GC rider and then or more of a climber, it is more common to see those sustained efforts. GC, you tend to bring in TTing, so you need to work on that sustained max power for a longer period of time. It tends to be more than 10 minutes. If you're a sprinter, you might also work that power, but you probably are going to lean on really making sure your high intensity is buffered and you can really tap into that and that it's really you've worked that speed work, you've worked all of that specificity. So it's really taking what that rider's about to receive as far as specificity and then training it ahead of time. And then the goals come into that as well, into the specificity of what they need to be training
I was gonna
based
ask that
off of their
next.
specialty. Yeah.
Like, how
So
are you
it's,
guys so dialed? Don't reveal what you're planning or have planned in the past, but do you like, okay, Mallorca, this day at this part in the parkour, we want you to be attacking here or launch the break here, so you need to have this system dialed. Is it that detailed when you're working with the riders?
yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think it depends. I mean, like Mallorca and Valenciana, those are the two first races for the team. They are extremely high level. You have Mallorca has some of the best riders in the world. Valenciana has the best riders in the world. They both do. So in that situation, it is more of a, hey, we need to um, really focus on making splits, making the front group being part of that dynamic of the race itself. We aren't dictating the race. We aren't saying, okay, you're going to go off the front at this point, or you're going to control the race here. Those are pretty rare circumstances. We've done it, but it really takes a key moment. Let's put it that way. So
Yeah.
that kind of changes where a lot of the riders now are going to be like, all right, I'm focusing on this stage because the finish suits me, and that's it. And then the rest of it might be breakaways or making an impact on the race. So they just need to be able to absorb that load. Versus some of the later races where we have the concept of winning GC, we have the concept of winning stages, which we do have the ability to win pro races in Europe because we've done it, and that is a
Yep.
goal. It's just more of a change in like, all right, these guys need to be able to control from kilometer 0 to 150K. So we need those engines, and they need to really focus on that. Versus being able to train to be strong in a breakaway is a different system. So again, I'm going on kind of a tangent, but it is a situation where we will pull from each race and say, you need to be ready to do blank. And this is your role. And that's what the goal is. And that transitions through the whole year. And there might be circumstances where, we're going to be more detailed and more directed at different riders on our roster, versus others might be going in to just serve a smaller role or get experience. But for the most part, yeah, there's details within each one of these events. And I think that's how you thrive as a program.